Happening now, a Situation Room special report. Breaking news, a pause in fighting. Israel's prime minister has reportedly promised a 12-hour halt in the assault on Gaza starting just hours from now. But Israel's cabinet, at least for now, has rejected a long-term ceasefire. Details coming up. Day of rage. Deadly protests erupt in the West Bank as outrage at the Israeli operation is boiling over. Our reporters were there for one of the largest Palestinian demonstrations in years. Here in the Middle East, Reuters is now reporting that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told Secretary of State John Kerry Israel would begin a 12-hour pause in Gaza hostilities starting tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. local time. It's about 7 hours or so from now, but that comes after Israel's security cabinet unanimously rejected a proposed one-week ceasefire with Hamas, a proposal put forward by the Secretary of State John Kerry. Meanwhile, deadly violence has spread to the West Bank. At least 4 people were killed in what was dubbed a day of rage with Palestinian protests against the Israeli attacks on Hamas targets in Gaza. The latest toll there is now at least 826 people killed and more than 5,000 injured. 36 Israelis have also died, including 3 civilians. We're covering all angles of the breaking news with our correspondents and guests here in the Middle East, in Ukraine, as well as in Washington. Let's begin with our senior White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. What's the reaction over there at the White House, Jim, to the Israeli cabinet unanimously rejecting this proposal put forward for an initial 7-day ceasefire?
Wolf, at this point, and I think this goes to the delicate nature of these negotiations, the White House is deferring to Secretary of State John Kerry, who has been in the region for the last several days trying to work out some sort of ceasefire agreement. I was just talking with a top White House official here just a few moments ago, and this official said that the president has given John Kerry his marching orders to try to work something out. Now, we should point out, Wolf, in just the last several minutes, the pool reporters traveling with Secretary of State John Kerry said that Kerry told reporters that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has indicated a willingness to go along with that 12-hour ceasefire. As you mentioned, Wolf, Reuters and AFP are reporting independently that Israel has decided on a unilateral 12-hour ceasefire that would begin in Gaza starting at 7 a.m. Tomorrow. Now, you mentioned the Israeli cabinet. We should point out that Kerry said earlier in the day that he heard those reports about the Israeli cabinet rejecting a ceasefire plan. He called those reports, quote, mischief. The other thing we should point out is that Kerry right now is on his way to Paris. He's going to be meeting with the foreign ministers from Qatar, Turkey, and a number of European countries to start working on this longer-lasting ceasefire agreement that they would like to see reached. Meanwhile, over here at the White House, this ceasefire agreement and the potential for it did come up at the press briefing earlier today, Wolf, but White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest sort of danced around the question, said he didn't know what was going on with that ceasefire plan, basically illuminating the fact that Kerry really is in charge when it comes to what is going on right now with respect to that plan and what is happening from the White House perspective on this. But Earnest did say that the violence in Gaza is having, quote, tragic consequences. He said that the United States is saddened by that school bombing that occurred at that UN school in Gaza earlier this week. And so I think there's a real sense of urgency over at the White House to see Israel take what they're calling, quote, greater steps to reduce those civilian casualties. We'll have to see if this potential ceasefire plan that appears to be in the works, or at least 12 hours, will hold, Wolf.
Yeah, well, the Israelis have accepted these short-term truces, as you will, for humanitarian purposes put forward by the UN and others. The Israelis point out that inevitably during those brief pauses, if you will, Hamas doesn't stop firing rockets and missiles into Israel. We'll see if it goes into effect tomorrow morning local time, 7 a.m. local time. If the Israelis do pause, and they say they will, what Hamas will do, that will be